Alright, everybody. We have a bit of a jumble of topics in this video today. I think, so, I had this, yeah, let me start by saying, I made this video a while back, about how mechanics are everything, right? Mechanics are everything. And it's not just, I guess if you didn't watch that video, I mean, you can just watch it, right? But the point I wanted to make with that video isn't just like, oh, like, gameplay. I hate saying gameplay in games, but like, gameplay in games is like the most important thing. That's not the point of the video. The point of the video was more like, games are heavy on mechanics, like, things that the player can do, right? That's a mechanic to me. A game where you can do a lot of things and have a lot of interesting choices will always be preferable to a game that is like that hinges on other things. I guess did I already use this example in the last video that Resident Evil 4, fucking 10 out of 10, amazing fucking game, right? But also, it is a little bit limited in the sense that if you have a level in Resident Evil 4, you have a level, right? Whereas in a game like DMC, you have to imagine when you make one level, that level is like multiplied by the amount of possibilities you have just with your character, right? Because your character can do so much shit. In Resident Evil 4, that's not really the case. Like Leon, he can run and he can shoot and aim, and that's it. And like everything else is kind of context sensitive. And that's fine. I mean, the game is like designed around it. The game is great. The game is amazing. But, I don't know, like just for me, those mechanics heavy games will always be like the best use of the medium to me, you know? It will always be the highest thing the medium can kind of do. Yeah, this is like, so the reason I'm talking about this again, right? It's especially relevant right now, because I feel like we're in JRPG season, and also Wonderful 101 got its remaster very recently. And that's what I'm titling this video, talking about how goddamn amazing the Wonderful 101 is. I'm gonna get to that in a bit, but like, I think for me, just the amazingness of Wonderful 101 is emphasized by just how shit every other game is right now. And like, it's like, Final Fantasy VII Remake came out a while ago. I still have not beaten it, still have not finished it, because I'm very bored with it. I'm not really interested in playing it. I'm playing it kind of more out of obligation. Fuck, I need to check how much I can sell it for on eBay. When I finish it, I'm gonna sell it. For sure. I already know that, right? I'm very disappointed with the game, not having a great time, and I think, it is just, like, there's nothing super wrong with it, but it's so boring. And, like, it's the exact kind of game that is not built on mechanics. It's just built on fucking the experience, I guess. I'm noticing that I have like this new mouse pad. I'm really happy with it, but also I think my monitor is like not completely. Wait, should I put up more so right? Probably, yeah. Great. Yeah, this is perfect. Okay. Shit, what the fuck do I want to say? So, and like I had this like idea in my head, like how the fuck do people play this game and are not bored out of their fucking minds? How is that possible? Like, and I had arguments about it. Like I said, like people said like, oh, fucking, like just the themes and the character interactions are so great. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but like, just even the amount of character interactions in the game, like, if I judge it sort of against the whole scope of the full thing, it's so fucking lopsided, you know? You get, like, you have this one fucking stretch of gameplay where Cloud and Aerith kind of do a thing together. They need to get through this tunnel, basically. And, you can see their relationship kind of evolve over the stretch, and that's great. Like, the way they do it is pretty charming and pretty fun. I think generally, like, in terms of a writing perspective, the game is mostly pretty successful, right? It's mostly pretty good. There is some very bad choices, I think. Not gonna talk about it because, I mean, you might not have played it, but yeah. Whatever. So, you have the stretch with Cloud and Aerith, and that's all great, but then mechanically, or like the thing that you do is that you move fucking containers around with a crane, and it's so incredibly boring and so tedious, and this whole tunnel looks so fucking god awful. Like, it looks really ugly. The whole game looks ugly as shit. It's really weird to me that it's like considered so state of the art and like, oh, fucking production values, blah blah, but when this whole game looks ugly. Like, the characters look great. The characters look really cool. The character models have a lot of detail. But, like, everything, almost everything else in terms of the environments, like, artistically is... Ugh, dude. It's, like, so gray, and, like, the lighting is, like, weirdly blown out. There's so many ugly textures. So many of the backgrounds are just low, like, they look lower res, lower quality, blurrier than the fucking full-on backgrounds in Final Fantasy VII original, you know? It's kind of embarrassing. Like, that's, yeah. There's just shit that I really don't understand. Like, how the fuck did it even happen? Anyway. So, the development of Cloud's and Aerith's relationship is nice, but it happens over such a boring stretch of gameplay that, like, it just does not work for me, you know? It does not end up working at all. And, just, like, I have so much trouble understanding why it works for people when a game like Wonderful 101 exists, you know? Because Wonderful 101, like, and this is the reason I'm talking about it, because how do I make this video in a way that doesn't feel mean-spirited? It's like, it's so frustrating. Shit. So, okay. It's so frustrating to see, like, all my friends, for example, play all these boring MMOs and boring JRPGs, but then drop Wonderful 101, like, after they hit credits, you know? Like, Wonderful 101 is a game that respects your time. It respects your intelligence. Like, every single... Okay, I don't want to exaggerate, right? I don't want to say every single second of the game is, like, so interesting. But, like, it comes close, right? Like, obviously, when it doesn't... like, I mean, with Wonderful 101, you see the whole point of making as well. Like, because the game is at its weakest when it's not focusing on its core mechanics, right? Because the core mechanics are so fucking compelling, like, why would you want to do anything else? That's kind of how I feel about it. There's nothing that's as cool as juggling a dude in that game, you know? That's, like, the coolest thing, and that's, like, it is, like, 80% of what you do, so it's great, but, you kind of just wish I could do that all the fucking time. And that's why it's odd that it doesn't have, like, a bloody palace mode. I mean, Bayonetta didn't have one, so it's really weird. Anyway. And I just get the sense that, like, a JRPG... I don't know what it is about it that draws people in, you know? Like, what is it about JRPGs and MMOs and all those games that, like, makes people dump so much time into them? Because I think Donkey put it really well in his Animal Crossing review, that it's like, a lot of these games you figure out in 2 hours. You learn all the mechanics in 2 hours, right? And then you just repeat it over and over again. Whereas, like, I I play Bayonetta now, and I'm still seeing new shit. And I'm still, like, seeing new ways to apply the mechanics, and, like, it is because the game is relatively generalized. You know, they just throw a lot of shit in a box, and then, like, things just interact and combine in ways that the developers didn't even specifically intend, right? It's just they set up... It's kind of like an immersive sim almost, right? Where they just set up specific rules, and then they gave everything kind of different attributes and stuff, and then they just let everything collide, right? Collide and create interesting gameplay. When you look at a JRPG in comparison, it's like so limited and so safe. When I look at Final Fantasy VII Remake, like, it's so... You do this thing when we want you to. You do this thing in this exact order that is, like, required of you. Like, I can't really even explain it in a better way. Like, I feel like people don't even understand what I mean when I talk about this stuff, you know? Like, you get your spell, it's kind of in the exact order that the developers want you to, and then the enemies have specific weaknesses, right? And then there's nothing else you can do other than hit those weaknesses, you know? There's nothing else you can do. There's nothing really... There's not that much to optimize. There's not... Like, that's the thing. There is always an optimal way to do everything. It feels like in a JRPG, you know? And, like, the way you're eased into it is so linear, that it's just kind of boring. And, like, I mean, JRPGs are inherently built on grinding, you know? Because they're, like, obviously, because the game's 40 hours long, they can't fucking, like, I think it's multiple factors, right? It's, number one, games are long, and then number two, they're built on relatively rigid mechanics, right? So, I think, so yeah, a game like Resident Evil 4, it has relatively simple mechanics, but because the game is just so fucking well crafted and well made, they actually managed to build new situations for, like, the entire runtime, right? Every single situation is completely new. And requires you to do new things because of the way they compose the levels, because of the way the enemies are arranged, because of the types of enemies they throw at you. So that game, even though it has simple mechanics, it can actually afford to be as long as it is, right? Whereas with the JRPG, it's already, like, the mechanics are similarly rigid, or, like, yeah, I guess, like, a JRPG, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? It's not that much more mechanically simplistic compared to, like, a Resident Evil 4, right? But the way the mechanics are designed just doesn't really lend themselves to, or lend itself, to interesting choices, you know? Like, it doesn't really matter where I move, it doesn't really matter what angle I attack from. Like, why can I even move? Why can I even do combos? Like, none of it really matters, you know? It's all... Like, whereas in Resident Evil 4, yeah, I can only aim and shoot, but then where I aim and shoot has so many fucking little nuances to it. So that's one factor. But then also, yeah, like, because of that, because of what I just said, they can't even really do anything super interesting with the level design, right? They can't, like, it doesn't really matter what angles the enemies come at you from, because the movement doesn't matter. So, a JRPG, a lot of the time, just has way less to work with than, like, an action game, or any kind of action game, honestly. And then also, the other angle on top of that is just, they're so long, like twice as long as the Resident Evil 4, right? For example, 40 hours. Of course, in that time, you're gonna run out of things, right? You need to repeat content constantly. And it's just so, yeah, like there's, it's just so fucking boring. And, like, that's the thing, once you realize, like, once you get into a game like The Wonderful 101, you just realize how shit every other game is. Like, it's not even... This sounds like I'm memeing, this sounds like I'm exaggerating. I'm not even joking. Like, this is completely how I feel. See, I'm not saying there are ways you can handle sort of JRPG mechanics in a way that keeps them fresh. For example, I like in the SMT series that the composition of enemies, like the enemies are so built around their weaknesses, right? But the way the teams of the enemies are composed is often super random in a game like SMT4, for example. And specifically, like, SMT4, like, actually does it better than Apocalypse, for example. Because in Apocalypse, it does feel more like... I've seen people make interesting points about this, that Apocalypse, it actually does feel like the enemies kind of come in, like, predefined sets. Like, it's always, oh, you have one team that's, like, full weak to fire or something. Whereas in SMT4, it was kind of random. And then your party is kind of random and unpredictable, right? Depending on how you fuse the demons and who you get to first. And, like, I mean, the game is relatively open as well, so you can, like, encounter completely different demons from other players. Sorry, my window's open. And then that randomness, when those two things, like the enemies and your party, they collide, it creates interesting situations where you can't actually optimally kill all the enemies in one turn because you don't have the right party for it. And then you need to come up with something on the spot, right? And Persona 5 was an interesting take on that as well, because it gave you more ways to kill the enemies fast, right? With technical attacks and stuff. So that's how those games keep themselves fresh over 40 hours. That's why SMT4 is, like, way fucking cooler than Final Fantasy VII Remake. But it's still not as cool as, like, Wonderful 101. And, I'm just trying to figure out what is it about these fucking games, like, that are so repetitive and do not really challenge you, right? Like, when people think of challenging games, they think of how many times do I die, right? Like, this is hard because I died a lot of times. No, it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? In Wonderful 101, I feel like the game gives me interesting situations to work with, right? Like, it puts the enemies in different configurations. It, like, has enemies with different layers to them, with movement that is kind of random, right? And, like, I can do so many things that, I, like, never autopilot, right? I never know exactly what to do. Yeah. JRPGs are kind of like that, you know, like a fight in FF7, you're gonna do the same exact fight, like, 100 times, you know? And then you have fight number 2, and you do that fight 100 times. Like, there's a couple fights, and then those are repeated over and over again, right? Shit, there's something else I wanted to say. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck it is that draws people to games like that. Is it, like, the progression mechanics that you level up and stuff, and that's satisfying? Is it the story? Is it... I don't know. I really don't know. So yeah, I completely forgot the fucking point I was trying to make. There was like something else I wanted to say, and, like, I can't, like, pause the recording and I can't think of it. But I thought of something else. Well, yeah, every time I try to discuss this topic, people are always saying, like, yeah, like, different games just go for different things, man, blah, 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 right? And maybe you just don't like JRPGs. I mean, that's what people say to Donkey when he dunks on JRPGs, right? Like, why do you play these games when you don't even like them? I think... See, you can see sort of all the negative... Like, I think there really genuinely is a problem with a lot of games, right? That we don't actually see just how vapid a lot of games are. Games in general, right? And how limited. There's like just so much you can learn from other genres of games. Like an action game, you know? It's just when you get into an action game, when you really get into it, you don't want to play anything else. That's really how it feels for me. Sometimes. Like, I feel like I just get so much more out of it. Like, because the game really does respect me. It does, it like... fuck, I can't even explain what I mean, like, without fucking repeating myself constantly, you know? Yeah, like, you can sort of, you can give, yeah, I mean, when you think of the Donkey FF7 video, right? Or like, no, I think his best video on it was like the Octopath video, right? Where he was like really examining just how dumb it is that you go through so many meaningless encounters, right? That are not like, again, like when I say challenging, people always get the wrong idea. I don't mean just that it's hard, right? I mean that it's interesting. Like, just there's no way to rationalize, in my mind, like, killing 100 rats at the start of a JRPG, you know? Like, that's the content. That the thing that you do is you walk, and then you pause, and then you get into, you go through load screen, you start the fight. The fight is just clicking an item on the menu a couple times, and then the fight ends. That you do that so fucking much. Like, I think you can enjoy titles in the genre, and give the genre a chance, while also acknowledging that those are, like, systemic problems that could be improved, you know? Those are, like, you don't just have to accept it as the nature of the JRPG, you know? You don't have to accept that that's just how those games are. And if you complain about them, then you don't just hate JRPGs, you know? I think it's still valid. And I think it's very lazy to chalk it up to saying, oh, you just hate JRPGs, I guess. Like, I had one time, I was criticizing sort of just the amount of interruptions and the amount of dialogue in Persona 5, and how much of it feels redundant, right? Even especially compared to Persona 4, for example, or Persona 3 even, like, even though those are long JRPGs, like, the volume of dialogue just was not even the same anymore. It was just exponentially more, and it was so much more aggravating because of it, and the way it was handled. I'm not gonna get into the whole thing, right? But, like, the point was that one guy replied to me basically saying, oh, you're kind of an idiot if you complain about a ton of fucking dialogue in a Persona game. It's like, what? Like, number one, like, he was basically asserting that the ratio between dialogue and gameplay in the other Persona games is, like, roughly the same, right? First off, that's just not true at all. That's not true at all. Like, and I can prove it. Like, there's numbers to prove, like, that the playtime in Persona 5, the amount, like, yeah, so the playtime is, like, 20 hours longer compared to Persona 4, but those 20 hours are just cutscenes, right? So, yeah, I think the ratio of cutscenes, of, like, gameplay to cutscenes has, like, increased by 20% or something from Persona 4 to Persona 5. Or even 30%. And, like, when I say cutscenes, I mean like mandatory cutscenes and stuff that's not social links, because guess what? Social links are actually fun because you engage them, right? You initiate them. You are, the onus is like on you. That makes them engaging. That makes them more engaging than like having a story told to you, you know? There's just so many subtleties I could talk about with this stuff. I think I talked about it with the Persona 3 video as well, that just why I find Persona 4 the most engaging out of those games, because it actually focuses on the player, you know? It like actually gives the player stuff to do. Anyway, that's beside the point. So first of all, that whole argument that it's like the same between all 3 games, no, that's not true. But also, number 2, I can still criticize it, man. Like, it doesn't fucking matter if it's like, if the critique, like, that's the thing, you're deflecting the critique by saying, oh, it's just normal for the genre, or it's just normal for that series, you know? You're not listening to the point I'm making. The point I'm making is the pacing is bad. The point I'm making is it feels redundant. Like, I can gather the evidence for those claims, and then prove those claims, right? And say, this is why I feel this way. And then your only defense is, oh yeah, that's just the genre, man. That's just how it is. Like, what? And that's why I really do believe, like, JRPGs can be better. And I guess, I mean, that's the thing. Like, obviously, what I'm doing right now is I'm imposing my own preferences on everyone. I have 70 gigabytes free, what the fuck? That should be way more. I think I recently cleaned out my hard drive and, like, it's... What the fuck? Anyway. Yeah. So, obviously, I have a very strong preference, right? I get why... No. I can acknowledge that people, like... That a lot of people are just drawn to different genres, right? They don't really get into action games like that, like I do, for example. And they love just dumping a lot of time into JRPGs. I'm not gonna say I get it, but I can acknowledge it. It's just... Man, I don't know. Like, it's just like, yeah, just the fact that Wonderful 101... Like, all my friends are playing Final Fantasy XIV. Xenoblade just came out. Final Fantasy VII Remake came out a while ago. And, like, they're dumping so much time into these games. And, like, Wonderful 101 is just kind of... It's just sitting there, right? And it's so frustrating to me. Just how much... Like, because really, in my eyes, that, like, a lot of those other games, they steal your time. Like, they don't give you back what you put in. Whereas Wonderful 101 does exactly that. It gives you so much more than you put in, even, you know? Fuck, man. And it's just, so, I mean, I guess I'm gonna talk a little, like, I think we're ready to wrap up, but, like, I barely talked about Wonderful 101 itself. I just talked about all this other shit that's bothering me. So, yeah. I feel like I mean, I already love this game on the Wii U, but I never put as much time into it as I wanted to, as I would have liked. I'm still, I gotta say, I wish the PS4 and the Switch versions ran better. Because I feel like I would play the game exponentially more if I didn't have to play on PC. Because I always just, like... PC is just, like, I have a laptop, right? And, like, the game runs flawlessly for me, for the most part. Like, honestly, that's the thing, I haven't really noticed anything super specific, right? But sometimes you just get the sense, like, oh, okay, my PC has been on for a long time, and, like, it's getting very loud, and, like, sometimes I have this, like, input lag, I have this like overclock for the PS4 controller installed, and sometimes the lag feels higher than normal, and you're like, what is going on? Is it my computer? What the fuck? Like, sometimes you're just not. Maybe it's just my fucking console paranoia, right? I'm so used to consoles that I like don't trust PCs. But sometimes, like, with consoles, you always feel like you don't have to worry about anything, right? Whereas with PC, it's like this could be running more optimally. You always kind of think that. So that's the only caveat I have. So that's why, I mean, also, I just didn't have much time, right? I finished the game once, and I'm a good bit into hard mode, but I'm gonna play way more. I just wish it was on the PS4 version, just ran better. Because I actually did buy the game on PS4. Like, I backed the game on Switch, got it for free on PC from a friend, and then I bought it again on PS4 just to, like, stream it, I guess. Because like, that's another thing, I can't stream the PC version for reasons. For complicated reasons, yeah. And then I was so disappointed with the performance on PS4. Like, it's actually kind of nuts how not good the game runs. I'm disappointed that Digital Foundry didn't test it more thoroughly. Yeah. Anyway. Blah, 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 all this stuff. I'm still gonna put more time into it. The bottom line is, though, like, yeah, on Wii U, I'd never put as much time into it as I wanted, even though I loved it. And then, sort of, we had hints of the remaster, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait before I play it again, right? I'm gonna really savor it. And now that I'm playing it again, it's like, what? It's like I'm playing it for the first time again, almost. Like, it's so insane. Like, how much, like, I made a tweet saying we actually underhyped the Wonderful 101, you know? It's like, it's exceeding my own expectations so fucking much, and like, I've played it before, you know? I had played it a couple times already, like, played through it a couple times already. And it's still somehow exceeding my own expectations. Like, that is such a weird feeling, and like, I had such a fucking moment recently, especially where I was, like, constantly learning new stuff, and, like, just the way the mechanics are presented is so hype. Like, it's so organic and so fun and, like, so immediate. It's, I can't even believe it. Like, there's something so fucking awesome about juggling a guy and then doing the Unite Tombstone and then, like, sinking to the ground, and just the way, like, the way your hitbox and the enemy's hurtbox kind of collide, and the way you like sort of make the enemy clip in midair, and it's like so incredibly fucking satisfying. I can't even fucking describe it. And then you get the fucking buff, like you raise your combo counter to 2.5, and from that point onward, your sword gets like a lightning buff, your fists get a fire buff. It's like the most oh shit son moment. You feel so fucking awesome in a way that, like, yeah, like, even the triple S and DMC, it doesn't feel as awesome as that. I think the only thing that really comes close is getting to level die and God Hand. But that's also is kind of a different sensation as well. Like, Bayonetta doesn't have anything like it really, because like, you don't really get any kind of big response when your combo counter raises. Yeah, I mean, true, like, especially in DMC5, because you have the announcer, like, that feels pretty fucking cool, but just like, you reached 2.5, and then suddenly your fucking thing just turns on fire, and it's just so, oh, what the fuck? And, like, yeah, that also, it was just a big moment of inspiration for me as well, because I'm currently conceptualizing an action game. I finally have an action game that I want to make. I finally have, like, an idea for one. I know that might surprise you guys, that I didn't have an idea before, but now I have one. And, that's something I want to steal, for sure. That one mechanic where your sword turns on fire or something. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it yet, but It's gonna be dope. Yeah, I'll say, I mean, Wonderful 101, it definitely has this problem that, like, I mean, I finished my normal playthrough in, like, 8 hours, right? And I watched all the cutscenes this time. So, I mean, I watched all the cutscenes the first time I played it, and then I always skipped them, right, on Wii U. Now, this is the first time I watched all the cutscenes again. And still it took, like, I mean, I don't know if it actually... Does it pause the timer when you watch cutscenes? I don't know. But, yeah, I just remember... the game was very short for me. Like, compared to sort of my memories of it. You always hear that it's a 20-hour game. I don't know if that's true. I mean, like I said, I watched all the cutscenes. And, like, obviously I had some experience with it already, but, like, yeah, I beat it in 8 hours. My first playthrough on PC. Yeah, and, yeah, initially I thought that, oh, the game, it's just longer than, like, Bayonetta, for example, and that's why it has so many more set pieces and shit. But no, I think just the ratio is a little bit skewed towards set pieces more this time. And in a way where I'm not the biggest fan of it, I do think there's a few too many fucking shmup levels. Yeah, like, that's the thing, there's nothing in Bayonetta, really, outside of Isla del Sol and Route 666, right? It's really just those two levels. And in those two levels, it's the entire focus, right? And, just the whole way it's built, like, it feels like a very sudden, surprising shift, and, like, that becomes the whole level's kind of character, right? Whereas in Wonderful 101, you just randomly sometimes you have a shmup level, you know, when you don't really expect it, and, it's kind of like, they don't really make a big deal about it, you know, that's just how the game kind of is. No. And that's why... Yeah, that's why the shmup levels just bleed together a little bit. They don't feel as special, and then also it feels like there's just too much of them, you know? Or too many of them. I guess both work. Yeah. And, I mean, what I was saying earlier, it's just like none of those things are as interesting as the core mechanics. So, yeah. It's, that's my biggest gripe with it. Like, I definitely had moments where I was playing and I was like, yeah, you know, I wish I could just have more combat. I just want to do combat right now. And, like, instead, it was just kind of a series of QTEs and stuff. Like, it's, in Bayonetta, it's just surprising how fast you can burn through the game. And just how few interruptions and shit there are. Like, low-key DMC5, well, I think DMC1 is, like, my favorite sort of, like, level design pacing in an action game, you know? The DMC1 is, like, and, spoiler, the DMC1 is, like, the thing I'm kind of, aiming for with this, like, action game I'm conceptualizing. Like, it's gonna be heavily DMC1 inspired. But also, like, a little bit of Wonderful 101, for sure. Like, those two games. And then, yeah, there's, like, things around kind of the core combat and stuff. Should I just say it? Yeah. Okay, it's also... So it's a little bit of DMC1. It's a little bit of Wonderful 101. It's a little bit of Resident Evil. Like, old school Resident Evil. I'd say Resident Evil 1 the most. Yeah, Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil Remake, those games. Maybe Resident Evil 2 as well. A little bit of Dino Crisis 2. A little bit of Etrian Odyssey. And a little bit of, maybe a tiny hint of, like, Spelunky. Yeah, that's the game that I'm conceptualizing. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone this. This is this is a secret for all my patrons. No one else can know about this, okay? I was like, I already have a name. I already have a name in mind, but I don't have money to, like, trademark it. So I need to, I'm just praying that nobody does this name before I do it. Yeah. That's the game. It's gonna have Vortex from, no, not Vortex, Round Trip from DMC1. Yeah, it's gonna have Round Trip. Maybe it's gonna have Vortex, actually. I was actually thinking about it. Vortex is the one, like, move where you're Devil Trigger and then you, like, sort of spiral toward the enemy. And it's, like, so weird that they have Vortex in DMC3, but it feels super awkward. Like, and then DMC3, it has Sword Pierce, but it doesn't have Round Trip, and it's like, what? Like, just do it exactly the way DMC1 did it, you know? Like, I don't know. That's why DMC1 just still has stuff about its combat that I really prefer over the other DMC games. And that's what's, like, partly why it's still my favorite, you know? Just like stuff like a Round Trip feels a little more fluid, a little more useful. Vortex, and the whole Devil Trigger implementation in general, feels a little bit more organic. Yeah. But that's all beside the point. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I made a couple tweets about Wonderful 101, just like how it feels almost like the ultimate action game. You know? Just how much freedom you have with how you move, and just the fact that you have multi-unite. The fact that you can summon multiple characters, you can summon other weapons, basically, to, like, continue a combo for you while you set up something else. It feels like sort of an evolution of Round Trip, you know, in a way. It's just so fun, cool. Yeah, I never thought about it like that until now, you know, that it's basically the same thing as Round Trip. Like, Round Trip, you use your sword, so you can't use the sword, right? But you throw the sword, and that will, like, kind of, you know, keep the enemies in check, and then you can do other shit. In Wonderful 101, you don't exactly lose one of your weapons, but you do have to give up some of your, you know, team members to do it, and that sets up other shit. It's kind of the same thing, but it's way more flexible, of course, because you can do it with every weapon. It's just really fun, cool. And yeah, I mean, the camera is like, because it's fixed, you can just, for example, stinger in any direction, and it, like, remains completely consistent, right? And that gives you so much freedom. Like, just that one thing, and, like, it wouldn't really be possible with an over-the-shoulder camera, you know? And, that's why I'm trying to find, like, with this game I'm conceptualizing, I'm gonna say one more thing about it. Currently, the right stick doesn't do anything, and I'm thinking the camera is fixed, but I'm not sure how exactly yet. I'm thinking something sort of between, like, Metal Gear Solid 2, Wonderful 101, and Devil May Cry 1. Like, I want it to look kind of cool and cinematic, but also I want it to be very, like, readable and not confusing, yeah, just give you a consistent, absolute kind of viewpoint. Where, yeah, and, like, that's the thing, the game, it's gonna have similar inputs to Wonderful 101, where, like, a back forward is a stinger, right? And then, depending on what direction I do the back forward in, I can just stinger in a different direction, right? That's kind of the idea of it. Yeah. But now, like, obviously, so I'm thinking DMC1 kind of angles, but then the camera just doesn't shift as, like, as abruptly. I guess, I mean, that's the thing, to me, the Devil May Cry 1 camera is, like, not that problematic. But I know a lot of people can't deal with it. I'm just thinking, Devil May Cry 1, but, like, it pans a little bit more, it doesn't cut as abruptly. Maybe it's like, Yeah, I think for most sort of combat scenarios, I would like try to keep it kind of high level and a little bit angle. It's kind of like Wonderful 101, yeah, but not as zoomed out. Yeah, I definitely need to study like a lot of cameras for this game. Also, yeah, I was trying to come up with things for like the right stick to do. You know what my pet peeve I have with action games sometimes is that I think when you have jumping, when you have mid-air combat, I think every button still should do something. Like, every button that does something on the ground should also do something in the air. Because I think it's really lame that in DMC3, for example, that Spiral and Kalina Ann don't do anything, you know? It feels like... It just feels very awkward. It feels not natural, you know? You feel like there should be something. There should be some kind of action. And obviously, DMC4 and DMC5, they both address that. So that's cool. Yeah. I guess that's all. And we're, like, 45 minutes in. I think that's enough. Stay safe. The world is fucking crazy right now. Yeah. Play Wonderful 101. Goodbye.